You're listening to the Cryptid Creature Show. If you're a fan of the show, go and check out our new Patreon site. You'll get access to our private Discord server, exclusive merchandise, access to all live streams and Q&As, discounts on merch from the Cryptid Creature store, and get a chance to be a guest host during one of the show's recordings. Just go to www.patreon.com/cryptidcreatures1. Thank you for listening and supporting the show.
It's 3:30 in the morning, whatever. But as I made my way to the tree line, I started getting like this weird, kind of like sketched out feeling that just something wasn't right. I don't know, it gave me some weird offset feeling that I haven't had there previously. At first it sounded like a woman almost at first, but it was like distant. I heard it again, but the second time I heard it, it was like slightly louder and immediately almost sent like something through my spine because it wasn't entirely human, but it wasn't animal either.
This is the Cryptid Creature Show. I am Brian, and with me, as always, my co-host Todd. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Brian. How's it going, man? Hope all the listeners are doing good out there. We got a interesting show tonight. We're bringing Cyle on, and Cyle had an experience. He's got some interesting things to tell us, so let's see what's going on over there.
Sounds like fun, yeah.
Okay. All right, you ready to bring Cyle on?
Yep, let's get him. Hey, Kyle, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, glad to have you.
Kyle, what's going on, man? Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
So you're in New York, is that right? Is this where you
Yeah.
had some of the experiences you're going to talk about today?
Some of them, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, what was the most craziest one that happened to you? Why don't we start with that one? Tell us about this screaming possible rape creature that you would talk about.
Right, so that was probably the creepiest things that happened, especially like recently. That was back in, I want to say October of, I think it was 2020. And at the time, I was living on my own in East Aurora, and that's one of those places. It's like, it's not city, but you're not in the country too much yet. But if you were to drive 15 minutes in any direction, that's when you start to get heavily like wooded. So I was, for a little background, like, I'm an Uber driver, and I have been for quite a bit. I'm in like a nighttime person. So I just want to put that out there because like I've talked about it a couple times, but it's mostly like, you were tired. So it was really late in the morning, but, there was one night I was coming home after a shift. It was like 3:30 in the morning. And, I remember I really had to use the bathroom, but I was not going to make the trip from the parking lot to the door into my apartment, all that. So on the back side of my property, there's kind of like a tree line. You got about maybe 100 yards of some kind of space and a little bit of woods and trees before you get to the back side of the next property. So I was like, you know what? I'll go right there. And, nobody will know. It's 3:30 in the morning, whatever. But as I made my way to the tree line, I started getting like this weird, kind of like sketched out feeling that just something wasn't right. And I tried not to think about it. And I was trying to like talk myself out of it. Like, it is like super light. It is the woods, whatever. But growing up, I spent a lot of time in the woods. It was one of the things that me and my family did a lot because, that was just the thing to do. We have some family property. So I don't know. It gave me some weird offset feeling that I haven't had there previously. And I start going and I hear, at first it sounded like a woman almost at first, but it was like distant. So at first I was like, oh, maybe, I don't know, that's some like lady scream, whatever. And I was like, kind of weird, 3:30 in the morning in this little area that you don't generally have too much happening. So I remember like standing there for a minute and I'm like kind of trying to like hear it out. and I heard it again, but the second time I heard it, it was like slightly louder and immediately almost sent like something through my spine because it wasn't entirely human, but it wasn't animal either. So I was kind of like caught there trying to figure out what I was hearing. And I heard it for a third time. It was really loud. It got really close. And that was the most aggressive. It sounded just evil, not natural. So I was like, you know what? I was like, I need to get out of here. And I don't know how, I haven't done too much research in the rake specifically because, I mean, to be fair, when that happened, I was trying to forget it. That was like, I was like, I don't want to think about anything weird happening here. I was like, I'm here. It is what it is. I'm just going to not think about it. But it wasn't until, I was kind of going through the podcast and I was hearing like other people like trying to kind of getting through it by like trying to figure it out and trying to understand maybe. So I was like, you know what, maybe that'll help me out too. So, you know, I'm going through different things online. And, when I got to the rake specifically, when I was looking up how these different things sound, that was like dead on. And to be fair, I don't even know if what I was listening to was like for sure what they're supposed to sound, but just from what I've been doing, it was like, all right, it definitely wasn't like a natural animal. It was definitely not a woman. It wasn't any of like the normal things that I knew about. Cause like I grew up like, oh, you know, it's not that like I just accept the fact that like, okay, like Bigfoot could exist. So like all these other things could exist, you know, just cause I haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not there. So, you know, whatever. But that thing was so unnatural to me. And I was like, I don't know what that is. Like, I can't even like compare it to some of the other cryptids I've seen because I was like, I never encountered that before. And I don't know. I booked it. I ran in the house. I locked the door. I didn't want to see what was coming. That's the thing. You could hear from the sound how much closer it was getting. And there, like I said, there's only about 100 yards between the backside of our property and the backside of the next private property across this little creek bed area. And oof. Sorry, that's just like the creepiest thing and like the most recent thing. So,
when did you say this happened, Kyle?
It was back in, I believe it was October of 2020.
Do you still live at that same place?
No. I wound up moving in with my fiance like 6 months later into a place back in my hometown in Kenmore.
Yeah, they say, you know, you talk about New York, and I was looking at New York on a map recently. You take New York City out of the equation, and New York is mostly a wooded state. I mean, it's wooded state. That's all it is. So, you know, you've got your towns and your cities in New York, but when you get a few miles outside of those, even New York City, you get 10, 15 miles outside New York City, you're in just wooded area. And if you look at New York on a map, that's what it is. I would say 90%, if not more, of New York is a heavily wooded state. And we've heard so many different weird things coming out of that state recently. Who knows what it could have been?
Yeah. And like, that's the thing is like growing up, like I never thought I had a shot of like seeing anything. Right. Which kind of was like a comforting feeling to me. Cause like, you know, some of this stuff could get, so, but like taking some time to think about it, it's like, well, I'm really only about an hour and a half out from Allegheny State Park. And like you said, like if I go from where I'm at, the 6-hour trek to the city, it's all woods. It's all wooded areas. So like, you know, maybe there's a shot I might see something. So, but at the time, like I wasn't super keen. Like I heard that I could tell I was getting closer and just, I had like a pit stomach kind of feeling that like you need to not be here right now.
What could you compare it to? If you were to compare it to any kind of scream, could you compare it to anything that's known or anything close? You said like a woman screaming. So it was a high pitched, really loud.
Yeah. So it was, it's hard to like, the closest I think I've come up with, right, is, you know how, it's just weird. It's like a loud, high pitched, nasally kind of in between. It's got some kind of like animalistic sound to it, but also human, because that's what caught my first instinct. It was like, oh man, there's a woman out there. And I was like, that's kind of weird. You know, I was like, why would this usually it's a very quiet area. That area compared, like growing up, I grew up in like just outside of Buffalo. So like growing up, everything's always like running out over here. We're out till 3, 4 in the morning, you know, but in East Aurora, it's such a little different area, kind of like set back out there. It's just a lot quieter. Everything shuts down early. You'll have a couple bars here and there that are open a little late, but everything's pretty quiet down there. So it's like, this is not right. And as far as like pinpointing down, it's so difficult because it was almost like 2 screams into one. Like if 2 things, if you had like an unnatural animalistic scream on one hand, and then you had the woman, but it was at the same time. So it was like layered, if that makes sense. I can't actually pinpoint.
Did you say it shook your body, went through your body too?
The last scream, I like felt it, and like I can hear, and that was the part that like really freaked me out, because when I first heard it sounded far, really far. It sounded more of like an echo through the property. And by the time the last scream happened, I started getting a lot of like, you could hear something coming within that 100-yard stretch between the houses. So I was like, that thing got closer. I don't know if that's it, but considering what I just heard, and now I'm hearing something coming from the opposite side of the property, I was like, I don't want to see what is about to show itself, because like, that's from what I've heard about these things now, like looking back at it, I'm like, I kind of wish I, you know, had the something in me to be like, hey, like maybe if I just take a few steps back, keep an eye on it, you know. But it was just, at the time, you're just like, and not even understanding what the possibility of this thing could be. I was like, nope. And yeah, that is not something I really want to like see. Whatever that was.
Do you think there could have been 2 of them because you'd heard the one scream far away, then fairly shortly after it was real close? You think there could have been a couple of these things out there?
I never really thought about that. There could have been. Unless this thing is like super fast, because there was no way you could, and it was almost like dead silent too. Like there was no way I didn't hear that thing coming. So maybe there could have been 2 of them. Because you would think that if I heard it way in the distance, as it got closer, I would hear something, especially moving at that kind of speed, that it would have to be going to catch up. So now that I'm thinking about it, maybe there was 2 of them. Maybe there was one close to the backside of the one property and just one way further out. That makes way more sense, because like I said, I heard once it was in my general vicinity, I had, you could hear it kind of crunching all the leaves down and kind of making its way. So, and it wasn't moving relatively quickly when it was in that little stretch. So maybe there was a couple of them. It's definitely a possibility. If there was,
right. Not to scare you any more than you already are. You know, people could say, well, maybe they were mountain lions or something like that. And people know that they make a screeching, very, I don't know how to describe it, if you've ever heard a mountain lion scream. Yeah. But if a mountain lion's out in the middle of the night, he's probably hunting, and I don't think it's going to make any noise. And they say that about mountain lions. you're never going to see one if it's after you, because it's not going to make any noise. So it couldn't have been that. There's no reason for it unless they were fighting. But again, you said they were far apart. So something was signaling to something else, or it was moving in on you very quickly.
Yeah. And like, that's the thing. Growing up, I spent some time in California, and out there, I haven't gotten super close, but like I've seen like mountain lions and all that, and no way. No way. I know, like, I can't definitively tell you like what it was. Yes, this for sure was a rake, but I can tell you that this thing for sure was not normal. Like, it was not natural. It was something very off. Very, very, very off. It's because, like I said, like, it was weird too, because, you know, you hear other people talking, and I firmly believe that like people have like a sixth sense, you know, and something's not right, or like that feeling that somebody's watching you or whatever. That entire time at that property, like, I've never really had that, you know. I mean, I had a couple like weird things, because like I was in a basement apartment, so like a couple of things that happened there, I was like, you know, I'm, you know, in the basement of this like 14 apartment property, so like that's like just stupid here and there stuff. I never had it that bad until that night, and then never again. Because I was there for, like I said, for probably about another 6 months, and I never experienced that again. But to be fair, if I got home again at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I parked way closer to the house, and it was real quick back in. Because I was like, I don't know. Whatever's out here is definitely better in the night than I am. So I'm going to just get myself out of the situation. I don't want to be in it.
That's so weird. It almost makes you wonder if there were a couple creatures out there and they saw you and they were signaling to each other, "Hey."
Yeah, I don't know. And like trying to figure out what, like, more about these specifically, it's very difficult, because like I tried, but as I dug into it, like I kept getting like worked up, and I was like, I need a second, you know. This stuff's a little different when you go into it thinking like this 110% real, you know what I mean? And that's what I have the attitude that like all these things are possible, because if you look out like through history, like, all the different creatures that have ever existed that are proven, some of these things are weird as hell to look at, you know, and can't fathom like seeing one today, but like, you know, that they existed. So when I was going into this stuff, I'm trying to give it the validity like it deserves. Like, there are other people out there that have experienced these things that undoubtedly, so I don't want to like discredit them. So I'm like, okay, these people saw it, maybe I did. So like, I'll go in with like more open mindset. But because of that, I started getting really worked up, and I was like, get me away from this creature, man. I was like, you know, I like my Bigfoot. I was like, I'm just going to stay away from this thing. I was like, whatever that is, like, get me away.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Those like unknown kind of paranormal things, those are the ones that freak me out more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of one thing if you know there's a Bigfoot screaming at you in the woods, but if something else is screaming at you and you have no idea what it is, that twists it up a little bit higher on that level of fear.
Yeah. It's weird. Those footsteps too, because I was like, yeah, maybe, but they were very dainty, very slow. It was almost like a person was coming through the woods. But no person can make that sound 110%. And that is not even, I couldn't even try if I wanted to. So I was like, yeah, this is nothing I know of, even in, you know, a realm of possibilities.
Yeah. And like you said, you spent time in the woods, so you've heard things before. You know what animals making what noises for the most part. And you're right. We have that sixth sense as human beings to know if we're being watched or followed without seeing something or hearing something, or, you know, just knowing that something is unnatural.
Right.
Definitely. You did experience something unnatural. What it was, a rake, a Bigfoot, who knows?
Yeah.
But definitely something out there.
Yeah. And that's the thing. 'Cause like growing up, I've had all these other things like happening. So I have experienced that sixth sense, like whoa, like before. So like when I was going to that tree line and immediately I started feeling that way, I was really offset because I was like, whoa, this is weird. You know, I haven't felt this here, you know, so maybe there's somebody out there, you know. I was trying to like rationalize everything first, but I'm starting to think that feeling is like, I don't know, maybe it's like an energy kind of thing where it's like, hey, like I felt it when I've seen like paranormal things, and like other people say they've experienced that stuff too. And like the only logical thing is like, maybe it's a part of some kind of energy thing that you're unconsciously kind of like picking up on and just kind of like hit you the wrong way. Maybe, I don't know.
Tell us about some of the other things you've experienced.
Yeah, so there was one place I lived specifically that was very active and very like something weird was happening. So I lived in Cali for like in the early 2000s for a little bit. It was more like not super southern, but I was like down, you know, southern Cali and smack dab in the desert. And I remember it was me, my dad, and my brother, and my younger sister. We were staying with my uncle for a little bit until my dad can find a place. And he found this apartment not super far from him. And I remember we were all super excited because it was like the first place out on our own there. So we were kind of happy to get out of the way, you know, and not be, you know, burdened too much. But I remember when we were moving stuff into that apartment, my dad, he gave us the option. He's like, hey, we can stay here tonight. Or we can, you know, spend one last night at your uncle's house. But the only catch is just, we don't have electricity until tomorrow. They're not turning it on until the morning or whatever. I said, you know, screw it. We'll stay the night, whatever. And the moment I walked into that apartment, like I had that feeling. Something's not right about this place, you know? But I didn't want to say too much because I was like, you know, just a little kid and his feelings, you know. I was probably about around like 12. So I was like, yeah, a little kid and his feelings, you know, stupid. That's not going to make us do anything. Like nothing's going to come from it, you know? So there's no point. So that night was fine. But I think that was because like a lot of things I experienced there were all like isolated. Other people were around, but not necessarily awake. And like, that was the biggest thing for me. It was very frustrating. So a couple weeks go by, like everything's like fine. But I start to see like weird things happening. Things are placed in different spots than I remember putting them in. Things go missing. I'm like, I can't. And I'm thinking like, all right, it's definitely me or my brother. You know, we definitely just stupid, put in the wrong spot, whatever. But one night specifically really like burned me. I couldn't figure it out. I wound up falling asleep on the couch the night, and we had like a small little coffee table in the center of the room. Now, I didn't want to be in my room for some reason that night. Like something wasn't right. I had that feeling. I was like, get me out of this spot. You know, I was like, if I can't leave, maybe I could just leave the area that's bothering me the most. So that's why I went out to the living room that night. Because I was like, I feel better out here. I can have the TV on to like kind of distract me from focusing on whatever I'm feeling over here. So I fell asleep, and the coffee table in the center of the room, it's far enough in the center of the room that I'd have to physically get up to get to it to pick anything up or down. I remember I had shut the TV off. I put the remote on the table, took that 2-3 steps to the couch, went to bed. And that night specifically, I was up like every hour on the hour, every hour. And every hour I wake up and that remote is sitting right on top of my chest, dead center. So the first couple times it happened, I'm like, that's my brother playing around with me. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way. But it kept happening. Like every hour on the hour, I am up, remote is there. And I remember in the morning, it was probably about like 5, at this point, it's like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I wake up again. I was relieved because it wasn't on my chest. I was like, all right, like, whew. I roll over and it had already fallen. It was still sitting on my side. And like I said, every hour on the hour, I'd get up, put it down, and it freaked me out. And I was like, the next morning, I'm like, my brother and my sister, there's no way. They were super young. not super young, but my brother was like 9 at the time. So, and then me and my sister are like 7 years apart. If they got up, I would know. You know, they're not the best at like sneaking around, you know? And originally I was like, maybe my mom was like doing something stupid just to like play with me for some reason. But again, like logically it doesn't make sense because she worked really early in the morning. So there'd be no reason for her to be up. Otherwise, like, but I remember I still questioned her about it. I said, you know, were you guys out last night? Were you guys like doing something stupid? Like and they were like, it was like a brush off. Why the hell would I possibly feel the need to do that? And I'm like, I don't know, but it happened and somebody did it. Yeah. I was like, I don't sleepwalk or nothing. I was like, somebody's doing that. And I don't know for what reason or what, but it's freaking me the hell out. And that was that for that little thing. This is just like an all like setup for like things getting like progressively different. A few weeks later, I'm back in my room. Now, in my room, we shared with my brother and my sister. So like our beds were kind of like lined up. My brother's on one side. My sister had her bed on the other side. And in our room, there was probably about like 10 feet to the door. And that door led straight into like a little bathroom, which you can then go into the living room or like a side corridor from there. And then we also had a main door to the room on the opposite end that would lead out into the rest of the house. So that was kind of sweet, right? We thought originally. And along that same side of the house, or our room specifically, we had a sliding mirror closet. I don't like mirrors. You know, believing the paranormal and stuff like that. I've always felt like you play with these the right way, they can almost act as like I don't want to say like a portal, but like it can act like a gateway. And I don't like it. So I've never been like a big fan of them. And I remember the one night, well, previous nights I would wake up and I would hear laughing or I'd feel like poking on my backside. So like all this is to lead up to the big thing that happened. And I knew it wasn't like my sister or anything like that because like it was like a weird whispery voices. It wasn't like a solid, I'm sitting right next to you kind of thing, but it was like around. So I was like, all right, like something's weird about this house, you know, and as long as it doesn't get too crazy, like then it is what it is. I'm 12. I'm stuck here. So I wasn't like super unfamiliar with things happening throughout the nights there. I just didn't want to talk about them because, you know, I played the older sibling. Like, first off, these things are creeping me out. I don't want to scare my brother and my sister because on top of that, I'm supposed to be the guy that's like, I'll take care of it. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to take care of that? You know? And then even thinking like, even if I tell my dad, how the hell is he supposed to take care of that? There's nothing we could do. We'd either move or not. And we can't do that. So again, like all through the nights, like I'm experiencing different things, little voices, laughter, poking, whatever. And I remember like really, really fucked me up. It was, I woke up, I'm staring at the wall. That's like I said, maybe about 5-10 feet from the end of where my bed was. And I saw something. It was like, it looked like a person, not like a person, like a tall person or anything. It was like a short person. Like, and it reminded me of my sister. Cause I was like, maybe this thing looked like it was like, I don't know, to me, 4 foot, maybe 4.5 feet. Like it was smaller, you know? So my original thought was like, okay, like that's my sister, you know, maybe she got up to use the bathroom and whatever. So I was like, hey, you need to get to bed. And it stopped moving. It was very slowly kind of making its way across from the bathroom door, almost to the hallway door. And once I said my sister's name, I was like, hey, like you need to get to bed. It stopped moving. And I looked over to my right side and my sister was there. So I was like, okay, that's definitely my brother. You know what I mean? There's only 3 of us in the room and 2 of us are here, you know? So I was like, all right, stop playing around. Like it's time to get to bed. And I could see it turn as if it were to face me. And I look over, I see my brother and I'm like, and like, before I could like catch my breath, it like basically like full sped into that closet door, and like you can see it moving. It was like something hit it. It wasn't like super loud, but like it went to go, it just like disappeared as if it ran into that mirror. And I remember ever since then as a kid, I was like, I am not going into that closet. I'm not touching the mirrors. I don't care. And like all of our stuff was in there. So like my brother, he remembers the times where I was like, hey, like if you want to play with anything or whatever, grab the toys, because I'm not going in there. Like I'm not touching the door. I'm not going anywhere near what I had experienced. And then fast forward a little bit, I used to walk to school. So like I would get up at like probably like 6 a.m. And I turn on like MTV, but this is back when like MTV had actual music, you know, and like you were listening for like the top 10 for the week, you know. This is, you know, CD players. I had my little CD player ready to go. So I would, my morning routine, wake up, turn on MTV, get the top 10, make my lunch, grab something for breakfast, and then go like meet my buddy, and walk up to school. I remember the one morning there was like no warning, no weird feeling, no nothing. It was, I woke up, normal routine, turned the TV on, get in our kitchen area. I started making my breakfast sandwich while I was making like, I think I had to have been making a PB&J, because I remember I saw something in our hallway, and I thought it was my mom coming, because it literally like solid figure woman for sure out of the corner of my eye. So I was like, that's my mom. Like something's going on. So I look up, not my mom, tall, dark haired woman standing in our hallway, but it was like not fully physical. So like I could tell that it wasn't, you know, somebody didn't break in, you know what I mean? I was like, this is like weird. Like this is one of the other things that I've seen in this house. Right. And I remember at that point I was so worked up because of so many things I had been seeing in that place. I just freaked out, and I was like, leave me alone. I had my peanut butter jar. I just whipped it. It hit the wall, sat in the hallway, and I booked it. I left everything. I left my sandwich left the TV on, I left the sandwich in the microwave. Peanut butter's now on the floor. I got home from school, and my mom was livid. She's like, number one, what the hell? You leave a mess in the microwave. You have, crap on why was the peanut butter in the middle of the hallway? And I'm like, I don't even know what to tell you. I would try, but again, like I've talked to my dad about it now, and it's funny because he's like, well, why didn't you tell me all this stuff before? And I was like, honestly, I didn't think you would believe me. And secondly, what were you going to do about it? I was like, we couldn't leave or nothing. I was like, and I felt like if I told you about it, it would make it real, because at this point, if other people are experiencing anything in the house, they're not telling me about it. So I'm thinking it's just me. So I was like, I'd rather at this point think I'm seeing things than like it's actually happening, because like there's just so much stuff that's happening there. And that was the most active place I've ever been. Is after we eventually moved out of there and I came back here, nothing like that. I've definitely experienced more things, but nothing like that active all the time. That was the most prevalent experience I've had in that house.
Yeah, sounds like it was definitely haunted.
Yeah.
Did you ever go back and look into that house and see what was there before?
Here's the thing. I am more prone to find out more like cryptid stuff than I am like spiritual stuff and paranormal stuff, because like I think just watching some of the things that I watch, hearing about these different like portals, different entities that can like kind of like latch on and like travel with you. I was like, you know what? I try to stray away from like the paranormal stuff as much as possible, because I'm like, I don't understand it enough to feel comfortable, and I don't know how to read the situation. Like, because right now I get that sixth sense feeling something's wrong. Something's about to happen. I don't really have it honed in to where it's like something's here, but it's not like pressure. Like I don't feel that, you know, it's just, I get hit with the, something's not right. Get ready. So because of that stuff, I'm like, I believe demons could exist. So like, I was like, I mean, granted, that's definitely not what was happening there, because I feel like demons are a lot more aggressive. You would know for sure. And I would definitely not be the only one. So maybe I would tread lightly back to that house, just because I myself know that I've lived through it and nothing terrible has like came down on it by the line. But I'll never like actively go and put myself in like I don't even play around with these like little tours that they got going on and like haunted locations and stuff, because I'm like, you know, if number one, if this is haunted and you're kind of just like, something's not right here and we don't know enough about these things, like if they're trapped or whatever, and like just kind of exposing them and making them more aggressive by doing things for people when they don't even know what's going on. I'm like, that's just like, it's crazy to me. At that point, I feel like it's a matter of time before this thing gets like, and I'm coming home with something. I was like, no, thank you. I don't want any part of it. Like I get weird too, like while like watching movies, because I'm like, nah, certain movies I'm okay with. The ones that are all like fiction, like super made up, right? But the ones that are like more like documentary, kind of like what we're doing now, I get really weird turning that on TV in my house, because I'm like, I feel we're opening a channel, you know what I mean? Because like, nobody really understands how like Ouija boards work. Like I fully believe that something happens there that like opens some kind of gateway, and I don't want any part of anything possible, right? So that brings me, okay. Now, have you guys, it's not like a Ouija board, but like, have you heard of like the metal poles that like people use? You know, they got like the little like
dowsing rods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My buddy was like playing around with that in his house. Now, again, growing up, I was like, you know, whatever, but like not super about it. But he would tell me like, there's a woman in this house, and I was like, ha ha ha, good one. Yeah. But weird things started happening. I would stay the night, and like, again, this is back when like iPod was like new, right? So like in order to get one, you needed to have money, or like there was no way around it. So I was like, I'm rocking my little MP3 player, you know, and my buddy's got his like iDoc or whatever. So I'm recording music that I want to listen to later on my little MP3 player, you know? And I remember he's sitting right next to me, dead of the night, and I didn't hear it at first, right? So I get my song. It's all wrapped up on there. I got the full 3 minutes and like 30 seconds, whatever. I go to lay down to replay it, and I hear my name over and over and over again, like just through the recording. So I was like, what? And like I said, I'm sitting right next to my buddy. Literally, I'm sit like as close as I am to my armchair right now. If he was making any kind of noise, I would have heard it. You know, there was no way. So I was like, the fact that I'm only hearing this now through my recording tells me that like something is not right here. And it wasn't my buddy's voice. That's the thing. So I was like, okay, you know, I don't know how to explain this away because I have it physically recorded. It's on here forever. It's now ruined the song because every time I listen to it, I'm freaking out because I can hear it. And I'm mad because like that MP3 player wound up getting stolen. So like, I'm kind of mad because I was like, that was like my one time I've ever had like physical proof that like something not right. But like his house, there was like ton of stuff. And after that night, I was like, maybe we shouldn't play with these things. And like, maybe we shouldn't, you know, I was like, we just got to like forget about it. Just don't think about it. And maybe everything will be fine. And, we're having.
They try to do that. They try to do that in horror movies, and that doesn't always work.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Let's just ignore it. Maybe it'll go away.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. But it's like a tough situation. Like me, I'm 28 now, so I was like, me in the position I'm in now. If I'm ever in that kind of predicament, I'm out. I recuse myself of everything. I'm like, I am out. If I walk into an area that's like makes me feel weird, I was like, nope. But like as a kid, it's like there's nothing I could do. I'm kind of like trapped. You know what I mean? Like I'm at my buddy's house for the night. That is what it is. Like whatever happens to me within these 8 hours, like you know, my dad will read about it in the morning if if it gets that bad. You know? But yeah, there's also now there's a local legend, if you will, in my area about this cemetery that's probably like 15 minutes out from like where I am now. It's called Elm Lawn Cemetery. Now the story goes like back in the day that like this woman, she was getting married and she got like trampled or something on her wedding day. Now this is like back forever, ever ago. So like loosely, that's how the story goes. There's been a couple reports like early on that like, oh, a cop saw the lady, like try to take her home. Was supposed to, she was guiding him to that house in the center of the cemetery. He's like, okay. But by the time he got there and he spoke to some individuals like, hey, like, do you know this woman? She was gone. She was no longer in the backseat of the cop car. So I was like, okay, like this stuff's weird. But I did not learn about this story until after I had my own experience in the cemetery. As a kid, I would walk around at night and like, I've always been a night person, always. So I can stay up till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Fine. It's getting up. That's the hard part. But I remember, you know, I'm walking, the village at the time. It's like 2, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting up to the corner where these 3 streets meet up, and it's like right at the corner of the cemetery. And I'm about a block down, and I see this woman in a dress, physical, definitely there, like not like ooh, but it was the reason I noticed her was because she was walking weird. It was not like a normal like strut, like side to side kind of thing, you know. It was almost like a glide, like a gracious kind of like move, right? So I remember that catching my eye and I was like, what is going on? So like I'm looking and I'm like, how the hell is this lady like walking like that, you know? And she's making her way. She gets to the corner, and right when she got to the corner, that's when she stopped. And that's when I had that feeling set in. All right, I'm no longer going to walk toward this thing. I'm going to watch it. But this is as close as we're getting. And I remember staring at it and I kind of got caught up. It was almost like I couldn't move. Like I couldn't make decision, right? I was just kind of stuck, right? It wasn't like physical. It was like, I just felt like kind of like locked into my body. Wasn't moving. I could move, but I like, for some reason, like I was just kind of caught there. And I remember I'm staring at this woman, and all of a sudden there are these bright lights coming from the opposite side down the street. And I remember it getting so bright. Like, I'm like, okay, these are car headlights. I'm waiting for the car to come by, you know, waiting. It got bright. Woman's no longer standing there. I'm still waiting for this car that's supposedly supposed to be there. That my brain's like rationally like the only thing that could produce something like that would be a headlight. You know, like where is it? Car never showed up. Lady's gone. I booked it. I ran for a good like 15, 20 minutes the opposite direction. I called my buddy like 40 times that night, back to back. Just like, I was like, I need to talk to somebody. I was like, I need to kind of like come down from this, you know? And, I remember my buddy the next day, he never answered. My buddy the next day, he's like, yo, were you good last night? You know, I got like 30 calls from you. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm fine now. You know, I was like, you know, it not like it was like super important, but you know, good to know that if I randomly call you for an emergency 30 times in the middle of the night, that I have somebody who's going to think about that.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm not dead now, so we're good.
Yeah, I made it.
Yeah, I'm fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
Was the lady was she in white? The one that you saw?
Yep. And then, okay, so after I had experienced that, that's when I was like, you know what? Let me let me look up some stuff, right? And then that's when my buddy was like, hey, like there's actually like the old wives' tale about Elmont Cemetery. And I was like, the what? And like I remember like looking at it and like, this is what I saw. And I was like, there's no way I could tie that in because I didn't know about the story until after I had my experience. So I was like, it's way different when you go in when you already have the background. And that's why like sometimes it's hard for me to decipher, did this person actually see something? Usually when I encounter something and I know 110%, it's when I go in there with no pre-notion. I don't have any background. I don't have any expectation. I just go in and let things happen and something happens and you're like, whoa, you know? But that's the thing. I believe that you can like manifest things. So like if you go in there looking for something specifically, like you're going to take everything and kind of like use it to validate that point of view. So I'm like, I try to be really careful on like my experience and like what I see to go in open-minded, or that's the thing. Half my experience I've had were unexpected. So like, it's not even like I could have went in with a preconceived thing because like a lot of things I experienced, like, even with my buddy. So I guess with my buddy, I had that, but I brushed him off. I was like, I'm not going to put any BS into this. I'm going to take him at, he's just trying to screw with me. You know, if it is real, I want to see for myself. I don't want to like think that there's something here and then you hear little creaks in the night and it's like, oh, that's got to be it. No, you know, I'd rather have that like back pit feeling that like there's a possibility that this kid's telling me the truth, but I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to like give power to this until we figure something out because like I said, I don't want to be mixing things up later down if I do actually see something. But most of the stuff I've seen, 110%, always caught off guard. Always.
Well, it sounds to me like you are super sensitive. You are.
Yeah.
You are, whether you like it to admit it or not, you're pretty psychic along that line.
Something going on.
I would, if I were you, I would try and develop that gift. It is a gift, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I've thought about it, but
because you could actually help people with that.
Yeah. I think it's like a personal, I got to get over that, like that fear of it.
Right.
This is experiencing these things is no joke.
Right. Yeah, I would recommend a reputable medium or psychic and just talk to them and see what happens.
Yeah.
If they're good at their job, then they'll be able to tell you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've had them forever. And like, I seem to be the only one that's, hey, did you see that? There's only one thing. And like, I don't know if we have time for a quick, little thing, but, so when I lived in California, that same area where I was, experiencing that most haunted, all that crazy stuff happening. I remember it was me, my dad, my brother, and my mother. We went into Cathedral City, which is probably about a half an hour-ish, 45 minutes from where we were staying at the time. And as we were coming back, it was getting dark. And I didn't want to believe this, but it stuck in my brain for so long. As we were coming home, me and my brother in the back seat, and I've always been fascinated with like space. That's like my biggest thing, right? So, I'm always looking up to see if I can see something. I'm like, shooting star, maybe if it's like clear enough from the right area, I can see a satellite. This stuff's like just really interesting. So, longer car rides, like I'm looking up and out of nowhere, I see it started as one light, just one white light in the sky. It looked like it was kind of keeping up with us, right? So my first initial thought was, that's an airplane. I was like, it's pretty low for it to be that bright, but that's an airplane. And then I saw it dip below the tree line. So I was like, there's probably an airport somewhere around there. Well, when it came up, there was another one and they were like parallel, right next to each other, same color light, same distance apart. It was like really weird. It was like synchronized. It was like nuts. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I'm not gonna say that like this is like some spaceship or nothing, but like that is weird, right? And I remember every like few minutes it would do it again. Below the tree line, double. and then they would go in like tandem. So like they would go in tree line, double up. So now there's 4 of them all in one solid straight line. And I'm like, all right, number one, this ain't no plane anymore. I don't care what kind of exercise you're running. Like, this is not normal. Secondly, like planes, you can see when they're heading at you, you can see the lights on either side, the green or the red, to tell you which direction they're going, right? So I was like, no other lights, one solid beam doubling up every time. I was like, this is either not normal or the weirdest military exercise I have ever seen. You know? And I remember it doubled all the way up to, or so it went from 1 to 2 to 4 to 6. And after 6, it kind of like went from the straight line into like a V shape, dipped below the tree line, and that was it. Never saw it come up again. Now, as a kid, kind of excited because I'm like, oh, no way. Did I just see one, you know? But I'm like, no, I'm stupid. It was probably like, whatever, you know, no way I saw that, but it freaked me out. Whatever it was, I was like, that was not normal. And I remember I was talking to my brother recently, and we never talked about it ever. I never brought it up because like I was the kid that was experiencing all these things. Okay, you know, crazy Kyle again. So I was like, I'm going to keep it to myself because I'd rather keep it to myself than people think I'm crazy. You know, I've started talking more about like stuff now because I'm like, I don't really care what you think. I know what I experienced, you know, and I'm not going to definitively say it was this thing or that thing. I'm just saying in the realm of possibilities, it's definitely possible that it could be X, Y, or Z. And I don't care what you think. But, you know, talking to my brother and reconnecting with him, he's like, hey man, like, do you remember that one time, you know, we were coming back from like mom's appointment or whatever, and it's like those weird things in the sky that was like doing that weird thing. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, you saw that? And he's like, yeah, I thought I was the only one. I was like, I wish I would have known that you would have seen it because I would have been able to talk to you more about it, especially like right after it happened. But I was like, I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't know if I was the only one seeing it. But like, that's what kind of gave me like validity there. Cause I was like, all right, non-provoked. Years later, it was still enough for him to be like, that was weird. And I'm like, yes, thank you. But yeah, so.
Well, you've definitely had some crazy things going on in your lifetime. And like Brian said, yeah,
no kidding.
You know, when we say someone's sensitive, we don't mean it like their feelings get hurt easily. We mean that in the cryptid world, we mean that you're more open to seeing entities, things, ghosts where other people just cannot. You know, or you can sense things better than other people can. You can sense that there's a ghost or an entity in the room where someone else can't. You know, it's just your vibe. So yeah, like Brian said, if you could use that somehow, some way to the good,
look into that.
Be a cool way to.
I probably should. I
don't know how you would do it, but
yeah, I don't know.
Like I said, you'd have to find a reputable person in your area, or around the area. Well, we could even hook them up with.
Yeah, we know some people, so yeah, we could get you connected.
Dope.
But yeah, thanks for coming on today and telling us those crazy, interesting
that was
experiences and scary
for
things.
sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm hoping that this sensitivity works out because I was telling my fiance, I was like, we should probably like go for Bigfoot, right? Thinking like maybe like in Pennsylvania or someplace. With the stuff I experienced, like I wouldn't be surprised if we might catch one, you know? I'm hoping.
Yeah, I don't think you need to go to Pennsylvania either to encounter one.
Yeah, I could probably go to Allegheny. It's straight up just woods. I was like, I gotta get
upstate New York is hot spot, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to go far.
Yeah. So we'll see, hopefully.
All right, Kyle. Well, we thank you again for being here today and talking to us, man. It's great
we
having you on.
it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. You take care. Anything else happens, get in touch with us. Let us know.
Let us know.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see you.
Right, Kyle.
Have a good one.
Man, we need to get over in that area and see what the hell's going on.
No, that is crazy.
Was anybody else that had some weirdness going on over there? Shoot us an email, reach out to us, info.
Actually, anywhere on the East Coast, man. That whole side of the country is.
Or anywhere for that matter.
Something going on over there. Mm-hmm.
Info at cryptidcreatures.co. Be sure to check out our website. Where's that, Brian?
www.cryptidcreatures.net.
Right on. And you can also catch us out and get some extra content on our Patreon. That is what, Cryptid Creatures 1 under Patreon.
Yep. And the
YouTube channel, the Cryptid and Paranormal Network. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully by the time you guys hear this, we will be. But please go hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, you can still go like and subscribe. We'll definitely.
And we don't just have our content on there. We put a lot of other people's content on there. We want to have a variety of stuff on there. So if you guys got some content you want us to put on there, you got to send it to us in an MP4 form or MP3 form. We can put that out for you too. But we like to have a variety of stuff so people can go to that channel. You see all kinds of different cryptid stuff, not just our stuff. It's a variety show. That's kind of what we're shooting for that.
That's right. Yep.
Brian, my friend, thank you for being here with me. It's great seeing you.
Always fun. Always learning.
Great seeing you on the other side of that mic again, brother.
Great to be here.
All right, until next time.
Yep. See ya.